So without further ado, Norman Lear and Katey Sagal. Thank you. Take a bow, Norman. This is yours. Oh, nice.
Thank you, thank you.
Oh my, let's all sit down.
So how does it happen that I'm your godfather? Do you guys know?
This is the lore, Norman. First of all, I'll just give him a little history and why this is so amazing for us. Norman actually introduced my parents. My mother used to work with Norman on the Lewis and Martin show.
On the Martin, yeah.
And she was the script supervisor, yeah? Script supervisor. And, you know, so we kind of all came up together. And
I introduced her mom to her dad.
Which, how did you know my dad? I don't remember how you knew my dad.
We were friends.
They were friends.
I don't remember how we were friends.
He was a director then?
He was a director then, and he had been a child actor in the Yiddish theater.
Right, that's exactly right.
And he could do a Yiddish accent. Oh my God, the way he could tell a joke added time to that's early on in my life when I realized laughter adds time to your life. And Boris Sagal was just so fucking hilarious.
He was. He was pretty funny.
He was funny.
So this was sort of, you know, a full circle moment. I came here to do a panel with my husband, and when I walked in, they said, "Oh, Norman needs someone to do his panel. Could you do that?" And I was so thrilled. And, you know, the lore of my life was that you're my godfather. Do you know that?
I accept. I love it.
That's what my parents always told me. They said, you know, he's your godfather. I was like, oh, okay. So I'm just assuming you know a lot about me, but I don't know if that's true.
And is this not one of the great talents? On top of that.
Thanks, Norman. So they handed me a list of questions. Last night I watched this amazing documentary, which was so heartwarming, and my husband and I watched it and shed tears. And, you know, I think what struck me the most and what I wanted to have you talk about a little more was how this journey continues. And you do talk about it, and you talk about, you know, it was remarkable to me that at the age of 80, you went into therapy. I'm assuming it was for the first time.
It wasn't for the first time, but
Oh.
it was for the first time in 30-some years.
Wow. And that at that time in your life, you decided to dig deeper and to find out more and to keep answering questions, asking questions, which to me is, you know, how we're still sitting here. Would that be your? Can you talk a little bit more about that?
The great discovery is one of the great discoveries is that it never ends. The insights that are available to one at any age. I mean, I've learned things about me or about life I've had insights in recent days, and I'll be 94 in July.
It's fantastic.
Now, but I mean major insights about who we are. My bumper sticker reads, it's the title of the film, Just Another Version of You, which occurred to me a long time ago, that we are just simply versions of each other.
Right.
It transcends race, it transcends, we have a common identity as human beings.
Right.
And
which is, I think, what so much of your work did for all of us. All of us related to a piece of that work. All of us felt that we were bonded. It was sort of like, you know, I remember, you know, even when I did my little television show and people would say, oh, my family's just like that. And I think that all the work you did was uniting everybody to feel like we are all the same. I was wondering also, was there a particular stage in your career when you felt like, I'm successful now? Like, did you know all that was going on?
It's a great question. I was a kid of the Depression. And, I mean, it was serious stuff. All the men in my family were kind of belly up, and nobody was making a living. And when the ancients in my family, you know, the tantas, the older generation, my grandparents' generation, talked about people, I would hear the expression now and again, oh, here's a good provider. A good provider. That was my ambition, to be a good provider. I also had one uncle, and Uncle Jack, who used to, or maybe he did it more than once, I don't know, he flicked me a quarter. There was nobody else in my family that was any kind of a role model, but an uncle who could flip a quarter to a nephew, I like that. So I wanted to be an uncle who could flip a quarter to a nephew. And he was a press agent, so I determined I would be a press agent.
Really? You wanted to be a press agent?
Yeah, because he was. Truly, there wasn't anybody else to, you know, think, I want to be like him.
Right.
There were no other I want to be likes. So that's what I did. I was serving overseas between missions. I stood over an Italian printer in a little shop. Letter by letter, I talked a little Italian. Letter by letter, we made this page up announcing that I was going to be, you know, the war was ending soon, I would be out of the service, I would be available, and I had the mind that, I remember one line, I wanted to be the guy next to the person they're saying, who's that with? I want to be the with.
Oh, you wanted to be the guy
No, I want to be
next to the guy.
Wow. So, you know, I should be a press agent.
No, to me it speaks of humility. I mean, that's what that sort of speaks of, you know, kind of.
Well, if you understand yourself, you know you have good reason to be humble.
That's exactly right. Well, I think when you have enough humility, then you remain teachable. Then you remain a person that can continue to learn and grow and all that. So it sounds like that's what that position was.
Can I tell you something that has been on my mind a great deal?
Yeah.
That only occurred a few months ago, my 93rd year. My wife and I were in Italy, and we had a few extra days, and we know we're friendly with the ambassador to Germany, a young couple, and you may know the Kimberly and Emma,
sure.
Emersons. So we called them, and they said, yeah, it's a perfect time to come. You can stay with us and so forth. So we went. I have no idea why it didn't occur to me. I was flying to Berlin.
Right.
The only time, my wife had been there with one of our daughters, but I had only been there to bomb it.
Wow.
Once. It was the longest mission in the European theater from Foggia, Italy to Berlin. I didn't know until this last Veterans Day how iconic a mission it was. Anyway, and that was because they paid it some special honor in the Veterans Day parade. But I'm flying to Berlin, and I suddenly remember what it was like the last time. And on every single mission, I was the radio operator and had the top gun. I was closest to the bomb bay doors, so I pretty much looked over and watched our bombs. I was the guy who notified the pilot they could close the doors because the last bomb had dropped.
Oh my.
So I saw our bombs drop, and I saw them further down gathering with the hundreds of other bombs from all the other planes around us, from the entire squadron. So I would look at hundreds of bombs dropping before the bomb bay doors closed. And I would wonder, all those bombs, are they all going to hit a target, or could we miss? And could we hit a farmhouse? And I recall so well thinking, screw him. Hit a farmhouse, go, I would imagine a family sitting around a table and say, screw him. Wow. And then, hours later or days later, when it first occurred to me, I wondered if anybody came to me with a piece of paper and said, Mr. Lear, if you sign this, you will forever not care that that bomb hit a farmhouse. And all I could do was pray that I wouldn't be that guy, that I wouldn't sign that paper. But the fact is, I had that feeling.
At the time.
I thank God, have never been tested. But I was capable as a human being of having that degree of vitriol or hatred or whatever, that I didn't care if it hit her. But, you know, it hurts to think about it now.
Right.
But years later, after I had my first child, I remember thinking, hurt that child. I will drive you, mother. I will drive 6 hours and kill you in front of your family.
Right.
You know.
So another form of vitriol.
So,
just the flip side.
Yes. But the important thing is that we humans are capable of whatever any other human is capable. The rest is all luck and decision and circumstance and whatnot. But just to know there's nobody that is so foreign as a human being from you that you don't recognize the common humanity.
Well, and gives us compassion. You know, that's where we, yeah.
Is that all?
You know, it struck me also when I was watching the film that you had so much success in your life. I mean, crazy. I mean, it was a what was it, like 10 shows on the air at one time, or 6 shows? I mean, it was some like insane
7.
number. And that was in the days of television when, like, to stay on the air, you had to have like a 30 share or a 35 share. It's just not the way it is now. And I was just wondering if, was there ever a point when you thought, maybe I can't handle this all? And I did see in the film that at a certain point you did decide, and I didn't understand if it was like, okay, I'm working too much, I gotta slow down, because it didn't feel like you really slowed down, you just sort of shifted your focus. Yeah. But was there a point, and I wondered if it was ever inspired by self-doubt. Did you ever have, not self-doubt, yeah, I guess self-doubt is the right. You have it every day, right?
Self-doubt is something this is what I mean by it doesn't end, the learning process. Self-doubt is something I'm conquering every day of my life today.
Really?
Yes. It's,
but how does that
it's
manifest?
Hard to be a human being.
It is hard to be a human being. How does that manifest, though? I have this like really naive image that we get to a certain place in our lives where we have so much self-acceptance because, you know, ultimately we realize we're not in control. I cannot control the outcome of things. I cannot control what you're going to do or you're going to, that we sort of don't have as much of that self-doubt. But does it come up in other ways?
I'm involved in a new show.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
You are.
So
you're selling, right?
We're doing, if you all remember, One Day at a Time.
Right.
We are doing a version of a Cuban-American family, Latina family. Rita Moreno is the grandmother.
Love that.
Justina Machado, the mother. It's a great company, great cast and everything else. So I'm the senior guy. I am not the showrunners. There are other showrunners. I'm in a role I haven't been in before. And I have come to the table, and I'm looking at 20 or 21 young people, far younger than I, at this table, and wondering if there's any way they would know how scared I am.
Oh, you're so sweet.
No, but it's,
sorry,
it's not
that's
a question
why.
of sweet. It's the reality. There's nothing that's. I'm better now than I was 6 weeks ago.
Oh, before you.
And 10 years before that, and 40 years before that, because the process is. But I I have yet to get over that little piece of, am I really contributing here?
Right.
You know,
I think
what
that's
more are they expecting?
Maybe that's what keeps us going, though. Because maybe that's the necessary sort of
It could.
push. You know, not complacent by any means. Fear. It's that healthy fear, possibly.
Yeah, and maybe there's a little vanity in it too.
Oh yeah, quite a bit. I would think so. You know, I always think, we don't do this without some kind of substantial
how good do I need
ego.
to look every second?
Yeah, yeah. Let's see. Oh, I know what I wanted to know. There's so much television on right now, and I'm curious as to, do you spend time watching new television? And if so, what floats your boat? What do you like?
I can't keep up with it. I just can't keep up.
It's too much.
Twice, 3 times a week, somebody I care about, respect, is saying, "You mean you're not watching?" It happened to me today. Louis C.K. has a show that I hadn't even heard about.
Right. Well, it's kind of a web show, I think. Isn't it Horace and Pete?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm crazy about him, and I never even heard about the show. So the minute I get started on Transparent, which I think is glorious, 9 people are saying, "But you're not watching X, Y, Z," and it happens all the time.
I know, so many shows to watch.
I don't try to keep up anymore. I can't.
Do your kids come
But
to you
I
and
still
tell you?
watch. I still watch South Park. Whoa!
Very good.
Yeah, no, they're still at it.
How about Family Guy? Do you watch Family Guy?
Family Guy,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
I love Seth.
My
That's
husband's
great.
favorite show is Family Guy. Yeah. What do your kids watch? Do your kids talk to you about television? Or your
My kids are, nobody's home. I'm an
Aw.
empty nester every 33 years now.
Well, I was going to ask you if there's anything else you want to accomplish work-wise, but it sounds like you are. I also heard earlier you have this show for an older set
yeah,
that you're trying to pitch, and I wanted to offer my services pretty soon, like not too long from now. I could maybe be in that show.
You know, when I heard that you just did a pilot,
Yeah.
as you were telling me just now about they picked up the option, so that was a little sad.
Oh, but
Because-
they extended the option. I might be free.
Yeah. Well, we have a lot to talk about.
Okay.
This show is called Guess Who Died?
Or Katey TV.
All right, well, we'll talk about that. Let's see. They gave me, I have all these questions that I don't know if I want to ask you, but
Ask me.
I'm going to have, if you had, okay, let's see. Well, is there anybody that you see that you haven't worked with that you would like to work with?
Katey Sagal.
Oh, see? He's officially my godfather, and he wants to work with me.
Well,
Those are-
the way my life, there is such a thing as good fortune. And I think you can help it along. Somebody once said, at the moment of commitment, the entire universe conspires to assure your success.
Oh, I totally believe. Was it Nietzsche?
Isn't that
It's
great?
Nietzsche, I think.
think it was I think it was Goethe.
Ah, it was Goethe. Yeah, and I always heard it was the moment of commitment, God intervenes. The same kind of concept. Yes.
Well, you could say it that way. But
Yours is
you know,
better.
you sometimes you think you're committed and find out you weren't really. But when you are, you bump into somebody, the phone rings that you didn't expect, you read something somewhere that helps, you wake up in the middle of the night with the answer. You know, and I love the word conspires in that context.
So
the
true.
universe conspires to assure your success.
Yeah. I agree to that too. I think that comes with, I think that sense of commitment is one of the great benefits of getting on in life, of getting older, as we say, is getting more mature, is that, that fear of commitment drops away.
I see her mother in her face so clearly.
That's so sweet.
Her name was Sarah Macon.
That's right.
And she was just the most wonderful soul. And face and sense of humor, and she was glorious.
They were a pretty good couple too, those two.
They were a great couple.
Wow.
They were a great couple.
My parents have passed away, so I miss them. You know, it's funny. It's like when I watched you last night revisiting your father and the memories, and your mother. I know you had a very close relationship with your mother.
Yes.
And I so...
Are you serious about my mother?
Well, I know you like to talk about your mother. That's what I was told, that you like to talk about your mother, but it wasn't a close relationship with your mother.
Well...
Yes or no?
This is my mother. I called her to tell her on a Sunday morning that I had just learned from my good friend who runs the Academy that the Motion Picture Academy is going to start a Hall of Fame. And these would be the first inductees. General Sarnoff, who started NBC, William Paley, who started CBS, Edward R. Murrow, the greatest of the correspondents, Patty Chayefsky, the greatest of the television writers to come out of television, Milton Berle, Lucille Ball, and me. And I called my mother in Bridgeport, Connecticut. I said, Mom, they're just starting a Hall of Fame. The first inductees are these names and me. And she said, listen, if that's what they want to do, who am I to say?
Well, then they totally misled me. They said to me, talk to Norman about his mother. Let's talk about his mother. Thank you, whoever said that. Thank you very much.
But I got to tell you, the best of the mother stories is not my mother. It's Neil Simon's mother.
Huh.
Neil Simon's mother. Can't talk about this without.
Go ahead.
My mother lived in Bridgeport, Connecticut. My father had passed. She remarried. There was a moment after she remarried when I was introducing her to a friend, and I said, Mom, I'd like you to meet. This is my mother, Mrs. I couldn't remember her last name. Anyway, she lived in an apartment building in Bridgeport, and Neil Simon, the great playwright, you're familiar with Neil Simon, lived in the building also. Neil Simon, who was called Doc Simon when I knew him, we were both kids, had a brother, Danny, who was a little older. He was the writer, and he brought Neil along, and Neil became a writer. And so when Neil became very, very famous, and Danny was a workaday writer. One day, Danny comes to visit his mother at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. The women used to gather in the lobby and chat, and Mrs. Simon sees her son, Danny, coming toward them, and she said, "Oh, girls, I want you to meet my brother's son. I want you to meet my son's brother." Right.
Oh.
That's the best of them. I want you to meet. That's a true story.
Wow. All right, let's not talk about mothers. We could talk about what do you know now? This is so like, I'm sure people ask you this question all the time because you're 94.
Not yet.
Oh, they don't ask you yet? Okay. What do you know?
I'm not 94 yet.
I'm not 94 yet. Okay.
July.
93. Oh, July. Okay. What do you know now that you wish you knew then? You know, like, you know, when you're starting out, you're working, you know.
There were a lot of things I wish I knew, but I want to make clear, not in a regretful way.
Got it.
I don't regret anything.
Right.
It took me 93 years, a bunch of months, weeks, and days, and so forth, just to sit here with you. My whole life to this moment has added up to this moment with you. Now that is a fact. And so I care about living in this moment and then on to next.
How did you learn that? Do you meditate or something?
No, I've tried to meditate. I love the idea of meditation. I've not really been successful at it.
You can't shut it down. Well, you know the whole concept is to not shut the brain down. It's just to be present, because you're so present.
Oh, I'm present. Yeah. No, I'm present.
Is that some?
But you know where when I first started to think about this, when people started to ask me, "What's Gene Stapleton like?" And my answer the very first time was, and it startled me, oh, she's always where she is.
Oh, I love that.
And that's that's the first time I started to think about how important that was, because that just fell out of me. She always, and then I realized that's what I want to be, always where I am.
So does that mean you're not a worrier? Are you a worrier?
I don't think I'm a worrier, no.
That's awesome. Like, and never really were, or kind of like, you know, like I'm sure there's panic, like, will somebody watch my show? Will somebody,
Yeah,
you know?
but that's not
That's right.
real worry.
That's not really worry. See, that's.
I've been concerned, certainly concerned about the welfare of a child or a grandchild, and you know, I guess you could say worried in that sense. I'm worried about Donald Trump.
Oh my God.
Uh,
Now that's some serious worry.
I got a kick out of Variety quoted me today on the net anyway. Somebody asked me what I thought of Donald Trump, and I said, I think he's the middle finger of the American right hand.
Oh my God, so
Yeah.
true. I don't even know if he's on the right hand, though. It's the only part I don't know what hand he's on. Okay, let's see. Let me see, Norman. I asked you that question. When did you finally feel successful? Because I know for myself, it took me many years for people to say, you're so great, and me to finally go, yeah, I guess I'm okay.
You said you're reading the book. You'll get to this in the book, because I write about that. I used to get to the airport. For a great many years, I've flown a lot back and forth across country. So I used to go to the airport a great many years ago, a half hour early in order to take out flight insurance. And one morning, I woke up and thought, wait a minute, I don't need any more insurance. That's when I thought.
That's when you knew. Because you were a good provider.
I was a good yes.
That's what my little Yiddish grandmother, that's what Boris's mom used to always say
Yes,
too.
a
Be a
good
good provider.
A good provider, yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's the old country thing. Let me see here. Well, I saw you own this copy of the Declaration of Independence, which kind of blew my mind. That was pretty.
That was an extraordinary experience.
Who knew it was for sale? I mean, like.
I had read that it was going to be auctioned off on the net by Sotheby's. It was just a little squib in the paper, and one of my daughters at school. I went to school one evening and met a friend of hers whose father was there, and he ran Sotheby's in Southern California. That happened a few days before I saw this little squib. So I had somebody to call. I called and I said, what's happening with this? He said, yeah, we're auctioning it off. He told me exactly what it was. It wasn't, it was printed the night of July 4th, 1776.
Wow.
So it wasn't the one that was signed, but it was the one that was printed that night, and I thought, my God, that's my country's birth certificate that night. And he said, why don't you come over and take a look at it? We have it here in my showroom. I walked over at lunch and cried when I saw it and thought, this is going to travel. If I can get it, this is going to travel. One night, but I bought it.
I know.
And here's how you want to know how my life has run. 5 days or 10 days or, I don't know, soon after I bought it, I just lost his name. A major corporate guy, anyway, is in town with his two sons who he's taken to look at colleges and wants to meet with me. We've never met before. And I tell him about the Declaration. And I've already, in Nashville, filmed 50 country western voices singing America the Beautiful.
Wow.
Greatest rendition of it. And I was able to show it to him. When it ended, he said, how much, because I told him I wanted to tour it, he said, how much are you looking for? I said, $30 million. He said, you have half of it.
Wow.
And he shook my hand.
Wow.
So it was easy to raise the money. The Postal Service gave me a 16-wheeler. We had a great exhibit, and that broke down. It could play in small places. It could fill, as it did, the State House for the Winter Olympics in Utah.
And I loved you carrying that torch.
Yes.
Here you are, running in front of everybody.
And I have this distinct pleasure of George Bush, and I have it on film. Is it in the film?
Yeah, it's on the film.
It's in the film, yeah. You saw it.
We did. We just saw it. Is there a reason? Is there a particular reason? I'm just flipping around. Oh, now that's the one light that means, does that mean 30 minutes, you guys? Somebody? Okay. 15. Oh, wow, Norman. All right, I'm going to ask one more.
Time goes when you're having fun.
Time goes by, yeah. So you write a lot about families. A lot of your shows were focused on families. Was there a reason that was so important to you rather than writing like an office comedy necessarily, or even though maybe you did and I don't remember, but what I remember of Norman Lear shows were they were family shows, and they were, you know.
It's true, isn't it? I'm trying to think of, Mary Hartman. Well, I did Fernwood Tonight. That was a top show.
That was an awesome show. That was a great show. But was it because you were concerned with those family relationships?
I guess.
Yeah. Let's open it up to audience questions. If there's anybody, is there like a guy with a mic or something? Oh, there's the mic. Okay, so you, sir, with the glasses right there. That you right in the way, yes.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Hello to both of you. In your book, you have a picture of you and Alex Haley with 2 kids on your shoulders.
Yes.
From Palmerstown, USA, and that show's not as documented. I want to ask you, do you remember those boys? And actually, I've been wanting to reconnect you with one of them. He's a good friend of mine.
Really?
Yes, he's sitting right over here, actually.
Oh, for crying out loud. Hi. How great, how great.
Could you talk a little bit about the journey through the South to pick those kids for that show?
Well, I don't remember about that specific journey, but, Alex Haley and I became good friends. And one day he was telling me about his youth, and he told me that his best friend when he was 7 years old was a white kid, and that the 2 families were became close because the boys just loved one another. And you're that boy.
Wow. Wow.
So, no, no, the boy that we cast, not the boy. But, so, and then when puberty set in, girls and so forth, and society and the culture and so it caused them to fall apart. The relationship. I said, Alex, if that isn't a 5-year run, if that isn't a great show, I don't know one. So we did it. It was called Palmerstown, USA. My favorite memory of it was a very early Morgan Freeman debut. I think it might have even been a debut. It was a 2-parter. He was the pitcher of a black ball club that was passing through town. They're trying to get a game with a white group.
Wow.
And, it was great. I don't know why it didn't last. I thought we did a really good job with that, but it was on for 13 weeks or something.
Sometimes that happens.
So there's a photograph. You're the kid that's on my back? Huh?
Yes.
Come up here, let me see it. Right. Oh, for crying out loud.
How you been?
And you're still black.
Yeah, I'm still black.
Listen, I love singing. Huh? Yeah, stick around.
That's awesome. That was great.
So
Okay,
this is a photograph. I had I had him on my shoulders, and Alex had a white kid on his shoulders. By the way, Michael J. Fox came from that show.
Oh.
He was Canadian. He didn't have a green card. We helped him get a green card. He stayed. He played the older brother of the White family.
Wow. Wow, that's great. Okay, Dawn.
Thank you. Hello, I'm a filmmaker, and I just wanted to thank you from the bottom of my heart for all the inspiration. I know you hear it all the time, and I'm here to thank you. I also believe that I, like yourself, have a responsibility to share that we are all bonded, and I wanted in my work to be the voice also of those that don't have that privilege. So with that in mind, I was just curious. My work, as I said, is about filmmaking, and I was wondering, do you ever share that vision where you want to take yours to a larger screen in that way, to the film world?
Isn't that what we're doing here? I thought we were sharing.
I think we are sharing on a very
What film would you make if you were going to put it on the big screen? What would the subject matter be? Or do you have that vision, is my question.
You know, we sit around all for days talking about this kind of thing. There are so many subjects.
You'd make a movie starring me.
I would certainly wish to.
You'd star me in the movie. We'd make a big.
Yes, maybe Guess Who Died as a movie instead of a TV
That's
series.
right. There you go.
My son, I have a son, 28 years old. He had a film that just played the LA Film Festival. Did I tell you about this?
You were just on backstage.
And it's called They Call Us Monsters. And it's about incarcerated kids who were serving life sentences and triple life sentences and so forth for crimes they committed when they were 12, 14 years old, and didn't have a chance. So, I mean, there's a subject ripe for America's understanding what our prison system is doing to our culture.
So it's in the family. Thank you.
Hello, Mr. Lear. I also, too, would like to thank you so much because it is being a child in Gary, Indiana, in the projects, watching Good Times, it, gave me that reflection of myself and made me want to become an actor. So you said you were doing a version of One Day at a Time. I've heard talk about the Good Times reunion or it coming back. Is that going to happen? And if it is, are you going to be a part of it?
And can she have a job?
Yes.
And what?
Yes. Thank you, Katey. Thank you.
I was waiting to say.
Can she have a job?
There is a film in work, and I'm not a part of it.
Oh.
My library belongs to Sony, and Scott Rudin actually is supposed to be making a tremendous amount. A big screen version of Good Times, but I am not a part of that.
Oh, I'm sad to hear that.
But you're hired anyway.
Thank you.
I'll tell them.
She's cute. She should work. Okay, who's next?
Hi, Mr. Lear. I just wanted to thank you for all the gifts that you bestowed onto this world and to us, and share with you a story. My father was of your generation, a couple years older than you, and I lost him as a young boy. And one of my most vivid memories is sitting around with the family, watching All in the Family, and having my dad just rolling over laughter. And he was always such a kind of a stoic and strict and kind of conservative man. And to see him laughing to this day just leaves such an impression on me. And that's one of my most vivid memories of my father. And that's due to the gift that you gave us through the television. And so thank you very much for that.
Oh, I appreciate
And I'm sure
you
that's just
sharing
one
that.
of millions of stories that like that. So I had a question for you. Seeing what the moral minority has kind of turned into to this day, and kind of what it's morphed into, or the conservative right wing of this nation, do you feel, I would just like your commentary on, you know, we obviously know about Donald Trump and all that, but what do you feel, do you get any satisfaction that played out and was really kind of shown, the moral majority was shown to be what it was, thanks to the work that you did and others did to kind of bring that to the forefront of kind of really showing their true colors? And then to the extent that it's kind of dwarfed into what it's dwarfed into now, if that question makes sense to you.
Well, it connects with the question you were asking earlier about, you know, I didn't really leave the shows. I was doing something else. I didn't stop. 1980, I was terribly concerned about the proliferation of TV evangelicals. Right. You know, all of the Pat Robertsons and Jerry Falwells, and the way they were mixing politics and religion just scared the hell out of me. And People for the American Way was a result of that, but I didn't sit down to start a national organization. I wouldn't have thought of that. What I did was a public service announcement, a 60-second public service announcement that had a guy sitting on a piece of factory equipment, a guy who lived it actually, talking from his heart. He said, you know, my wife and I we sit around with our kids, and over dinner we're talking politics and we're arguing about things, and we don't agree. But here come all these ministers on radio and television and in the mail telling us we're good Christians or bad Christians, depending on our political points of view. He said, well, I happen to agree with the ministers on a lot of that stuff. My wife doesn't. I know she's a better Christian than I am. And they're saying she isn't. He said, anyway, he winds up saying, there's got to be something wrong when anybody tells you you are a good or a bad Christian, depending on your political point of view. That's not the American way. So, I showed it to, you know, we made it, and then I showed it to a number of my associates, and they said, you know, you got 3 strikes against you. You're Jewish. You're taking on the religious right. You're Jewish. You're a Hollywood product. So I flew to, I knew Father Hesburgh at Notre Dame, and I flew to Notre Dame and I showed it to him, and he said, I'll never forget what he said. He said, you know, you'll find that mainline church leaders will agree with this. That's not the American way. And he said, but another thing, mainline church leaders are feeling that you may not know about is they can't bear how they, meaning the moral majority, tortures Scripture. You know, they torture Scripture. I couldn't forget that phrase. And he gave me the names of other mainline church leaders, and I went around the country seeing them and having them sign on to this PSA. But in one of those meetings, somebody said, you know, you're going to have to put a group together around this PSA. I like what he says at the end, that's not the American way. You ought to be people for the American way. So that's how the organization started. I've taken a long time to answer your question.
Thank you.
That's okay. Hi.
My name is Kimberly. I also am very inspired by all your work, and it's why I wanted to work in television myself. I'm in casting. And I'm Jewish. I'm from Long Island, New York, and now I live in Los Angeles. And I just, yay, Long Island. But I just always, I noticed growing up that there were never a sitcom, a family show about a Jewish family, there was the Goldbergs in the early 50s, there's some new Goldbergs now, but nothing in between. And did you ever think about or want to make a show about a Jewish family, or is there a reason that you didn't?
You know, in my eyes, they're all Jewish.
Good answer.
You know, in a sense, I mean that in the same way I mean we're all versions of each other. You know, when I cast Carol O'Connor, there were a lot of people, the network especially, who said, you know, he's Irish. He's got to be Irish Catholic. And but I didn't want to label any religion or ethnicity as a bigot, and I thought that would happen if he, you know. So as Irish looking as his name, as he was, the show was saying he's not necessary. Well, we didn't make him anything, and everybody accepted that, you know, whether they thought he might have been Irish or not, it just never came up. So when I say, and I had this argument with on Good Times, when the fact that these were the first African Americans that were representing mothers and fathers, families on television, and they had a weight they needn't have had, but it was so understandable. They didn't want to do anything wrong as the first representatives of their race in a family situation. So when we wished to deal with Thelma, who was as attractive as any woman ever on television, 15, 16 years old, boys hitting on her, and we wanted to deal with that subject, Esther Roll was, you know, concerned about dealing in that subject anymore, because of the weight of the fact that she was the first representative of a black family mother. And so that's when, you know, we had to talk about, you know the patina. I'm not black. I didn't grow up in your culture, but I am a brother, I am a father, I am a son, I am, you know, all of the male relationships in family life I understand. And I'm gonna have to, the buck has to stop with me even though I'm not black. And we're gonna deal with this subject. It's a long answer to we're all the same. I mean, they were all Jewish families.
You know, it's so funny in that movie. Oh, and then we have to stop. But in the movie, I did notice how well you dealt with, I'm not going to use the word temperamental, but being an actor myself, somewhat emotional, kind of asking a lot of questions. You're so good with the actors in terms of answering their questions and calming it. And I wondered, though, if there was any one of those, and you can answer or not, that just drove you nuts. Or did they, you know, because I live with a writer and I hear him talk about actors that drive him nuts.
I hate talking about it because I love John Amos.
Right, but he drove
John Amos was the father in Good Times, for those of you who may not remember. And he's a wonderful actor. And, but he was capable of doing this. I did a show called 704 Hauser, which was a black family moving into the house that the Bunkers had lived in all those years. And we did a pre-shoot one day. We had to shoot a scene one day in rehearsal because we couldn't do that scene in front of an audience. So we had it in the bank, and while we were rehearsing the other scenes. The day after we shot the pre-shoot, he was going to be a little late because he was going to the barber shop. When he came in after the barber shop, he didn't have a hair on his head. he had been, we were filming the day before.
Oh my God.
And he came in.
That would drive you nuts.
You know, we had to wait another 30 hours or something until we could make the hair, but the geniuses who do that did that, and we went on. But that was the most difficult. The question was, what was the most difficult? And that was the most difficult time I had.
See, that's the stuff nobody knows that happens behind the scenes. You know, actors show up tattooed when there was no tattoo the day before.
Yeah.
Haircut. No. I'm not sure what this red light means. Does that mean we're done, or do we keep going? We can do one more question. Okay, great. Hi.
Hello. Norman, if I can call you that. I feel like I know you.
Can I think about that?
My name is Chris Smith. I'm an Austin actor. I want to make sure I bring that to everybody's attention. I was raised by my grandmother, and she is actually with me. And I got to watch your documentary with her, which is something I'll keep forever. I got here a little late, so I didn't get to see your introduction of the documentary. How can I find this to watch again in the near future? And do you have a go-to?
Can we meet your grandmother?
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, ask her this.
Yeah, that'd be great. Her name is Lois Anderson. She's sitting right over here.
Hello.
And I'm here and an actor and able to do what I do because of her.
Uh-huh. And
so I can just only imagine what kind of grandparents you had. And you know, I'm kind of just overwhelmed by the experience right now. And I just want to thank you and your grandparents, and thank my grandmother.
Thank you.
Thank my grandmother. And
my grandparents are sitting in the car. What? Is there air conditioning? I hope the motor's running, yeah.
What about the answer to where can we get this movie? Because I don't know, it's going to have a release, I think?
Well, it's going to be in theaters, it's going to be on Netflix, and it'll be on American Masters on PBS. So it will have a life.
All right. So I think we're done, Norman.
So here's what we're going to do.
Okay.
We're going to go out and shop for a big bed, and we're all going to get in it.
Yay!
So what are we, about 400 people?
Okay. You're all excused. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.